Hey everybody, my name's Commander Eagle 131, and I'd like to show off my UC SysDef Razorleaf-Class Frigate. The UC Razorleaf-Class is several things. First and foremost, it's a UC Navy SysDef roleplay ship, mainly tailored towards the final battle of the Crimson Fleet questline, should one decide to support the UC. It's also a heavy variant of one of my previous builds, the Liberty Cruiser. And last, it's kind of a total reimagining of the legendary Razorleaf ship and what exactly the Mantis is. So before we go any further, this is a warning right now that we'll be jumping straight into major spoiler territory concerning an early side quest called Mantis, given by a slate called Secret Outpost, dropped by the Spacers. So if you don't want this quest spoiled, go on and pause the video and go get that quest done. So roleplay wise, we have to sort of rewrite official lore and imagine that instead of the Mantis being a legendary individual, the Mantis instead is the name of a legendary pirate hunting naval ship. What you're seeing here is the UCNS-X Mantis, the name I gave it, the only Razorleaf-class experimental frigate the United Colonies Navy had ever built. My own headcanon written around the UCNS-X Mantis is that it was a shelved Navy project attempting to develop heavy but maneuverable frigate-sized ships with a massive forward particle cannon battery and automated point defense. The project was a success, as the Mantis brought down many criminal ships during its military trials. The project was ultimately shelved due to the cost of each ship being way too high, a lesser need for expensive warships with Colony War being over, and a general disinterest in bringing down the legs of the Crimson Fleet. So fast forward years later, this prototype vessel was brought out of permanent dry dock by Commander Ikonde to aid in the battle against the pirates. Think Star Trek Deep Space Nine when Sisko brings back the Defiant. So going with the name and all the headcanon, it gives a little bit of extra flavor when bringing a massive experimental Navy ship, purpose-built for killing pirates, to that one particular scripted Spacers event when they all run away from you terrified. So exterior design-wise, I wanted to retain the forward firing chamber found on the original Liberty Cruiser build, while also still paying homage to the original Razorleaf's color scheme and some of its overall angles and shapes. I stuck mostly with Deimos parts. It just makes sense. The original Razorleaf was all Deimos, and it's a UC Navy SysDef roleplay ship. Deimos parts really just make a ship look extremely aggressive, and I wanted to build something that might strike a little bit of fear into those criminals' hearts when they see you jump in. So interior design-wise, I'm not going to go into great detail here because I don't really feel like it's heavy on the roleplay enough for me to really kind of talk through it. It does feature a semi-thought-out layout though that might support crew on medium to long-term missions, but I'll be giving a quick tour towards the end of the video, so if you're not interested in heading off into the builder, go ahead and skip to that segment now. So before we head off into the builder, a couple quick disclaimers. This will not be a ship builder tool tutorial, this will be a ship build tutorial. I'll be showing you how to build this specific ship and assuming that you're already comfortable with the ship builder. The Razorleaf-class frigate has a few endgame ship modules and is a Class C ship, so you'll need rank 4 ship designs and piloting, as well as level 60 or above to build to exacting specifications. You should be able to build most of this ship without those, but your mileage may vary based on level and skill ranks. So before we head off into the builder, let's go get some Staryard specific modules taken care of. First, we're going to head to Deimos Staryard. We're going to need one DS 40.2 Ares bridge, one 2x2 battle stations, one 2x2 engineering bay, 2 Poseidon DT-230 engines, and 4 320 CB landing gear. Next, at the Nova Galactic vendor at New Homestead, we're going to need one 2x2 living quarters. Now, quick note about this hab: if you want to keep it all Deimos, just sub out this hab for the Deimos 2x2 living quarters. I'm not sure what that will do to door and ladder placement, so use at your own risk. Next, we head to the Crimson Fleet Vendor in the Crix system. We're going to need 2 conduction grids and 1 comm spike. A quick note about these last 2 modules, they are optional as they're locked behind the Crimson Fleet faction questline. I included them for the combat buffs they offer. Alright, let's head off into the builder. Okay, here we are in the builder. I've got everything exploded out. So right here in front of us, this is the Habs layout. I've left it together again because I want to talk you through it when we get to that part. Moving on to over here, this is our big pile of stuff, as I like to call it. This is just a combination of structural, cargo holds, fuel tanks, and everything else that lends to the ship's overall shape and profile. Right here are our landing gear. And over here is a separate pile of stuff. These are all the items that make up the forward cannon assembly. If you watched the Liberty Cruiser tutorial ages ago, this is actually largely the same. Believe it or not, it's almost exactly the same with the addition of these Habs here and then these beefier structural parts. And we come over here. This is our main modules, engines, reactor, and the like. Then over here, this is our pile of hardpoints. So as always, we're going to begin with the Habs placement. Okay, before we start placing Habs, we're going to be placing Habs in a little bit of a different manner than I usually do, and I want to provide some context as to why, and to also get you slightly familiar with the layout so you're not going in totally confused. So I want you to kind of think of this layout as being split in 2 halves. This is our rear section, and this is our front section. And then all decks in the back should be accessible by this stack of 1x1s, and all floors on this side should be accessible by this stack of 1x1s. So let's talk about the pathing. So you're coming in from a planet. From outside, you go in through the landing bay, you'll end up back here in the workshop, and then you should have a straight shot all the way to this ladder well right here. And from this point, you can access the bridge by the ladder well, and all these other sort of roleplay Habs by this ladder well. And then the docking hatch is on the bottom of the ship, and you should be able to access it from here as well. So you would walk out inside to this 2x2 engineering bay and go down into the belly right here to access the hatch. Now, there's a lot of floors on here, and there's a lot of opportunities for the ladder and door placement to go haywire. I know when I was building this thing, prototyping it, oh my gosh, it was so annoying getting everything to work right. During the prototyping phase, I've rebuilt the Habs section multiple times until I could do it without fail. So if you follow how I build these Habs to the letter, you shouldn't have any problems with door and ladder placement. So hopefully you kind of understand where we're going to be going when we start placing these Habs here, okay? So without further ado, let's get that started. Alright, so as you can see, I've deleted all the Habs. We're just going to do this the natural way. This is how I believe I've gotten the Hab and ladder and door placement to work flawlessly every time. So let's get started. Tab on over to your bays tab, and we're going to start by placing an NG-6 landing bay here. Move this over a little bit. Okay. So for the most part, when we place these Habs, we're going to hover the cursor over the attachment point where we want the item to go. Okay. Some people on the internet was saying that's how you should do it if you want to attempt to force a ladder or door connection. So I've always just kind of done it that way, and it always usually kind of works. So we're going to focus on this point right here. And I already know when we do that, this is actually going to just undermine what I said, because the workshop's, going to be placed in the wrong position. But go ahead and take this 2x1 workshop from Deimos, move it 1 block ahead. This shouldn't be a problem. It does it to me every time. Okay, so focus on this spot right here. And we're going to find a Nova Galactic B berth, 2x1. That guy right there. Place it. Okay, so here's our walkway. Let's start our first ladder well. So focus on this anchor point right here in the B berth, and grab any Deimos one by one, and do this 2 more times. Focus on that point, and a third one. Okay, there's our first ladder well. Focus on this point right here, and tab over to your Cockpits tab, and place your DS-40 Ares bridge, like so. Okay. Now let's focus back down here on this point on the B berth. This is kind of our junction right here, this B berth. This takes us to all the different spots. Go back over to your Habs tab, and we're going to be placing a Deimos engineering bay right there. Like so. Should be attached like that. And then turn the camera around, focus on this point here. Let's place a Deimos 2x1 control station. See, it'll do it again. You can just move it backwards and it should be fine. It always places the ladder there without problem. That's where we want the ladder to be. Okay, so focus on that point on the bottom of the control station. And that's where our slim docker is going to go. So tab to your dockers, find your 100 DP slim docker, and it'll go there. So here we have our basic pathway to all the entry points of the ship and the bridge. So let's go ahead and start placing all of our other Habs. Focus on this point right here. We're going to be doing 2 more Deimos 1x1s. So tab back over to your Habs. 1x1 there. And another 1x1 there. Focus on this point here on the 1x1. We're going to use a Nova Galactic Armory. Right there. And then a Nova Galactic Captain's Quarters right here. Like so. Okay, so swing the camera around to the front side. Let's just build our way from the bottom up, I suppose. So right here on this point, we are going to place a Nova Galactic Infirmary. Like that. Focus on this point right here. We're going to be using our Nova Galactic 2x2 living quarters, or Deimos living quarters, whatever you decide. On the side there, I believe, focus on this point, we will be using a Nova Galactic A-berth. Move that back. I found it's not super important getting these attachment points correct for the side modules, because no matter what I've done, it always puts the doors here correctly, and it never tries to put a ladder here between any of these side Habs. So it's okay if you just selected the wrong point like I did. You can just move it back and the system will figure it out. So let's focus on that point there. Our Deimos Battle Station 2x2 goes in that spot. And on the side, our Deimos 2x1 control station. There it is. And so that is it for the main Habs layout. So one final thing, and this is very important to getting everything correct. Right here on the back of this Deimos workshop, we have to place an aft porthole, and that's going to block a ladder right here. No matter what I've tried, the system insists on placing a ladder right here. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's because it's trying to simplify things by having a ladder here where the exit point is. I have no idea, but placing a porthole here blocks it. So let's tab over to our structural. There's our porthole. And that's going to block that ladder from occurring there and instead give us a ladder right here. So we'll have 2 ladder wells right next to each other. So it's no question of, which ladder goes where. There's no more ladder here. So don't forget to put this porthole there. And in fact, I always throw another porthole right here too, just to be safe. Okay? And so that is it. Let's go ahead and move on to your big pile of stuff. Now may actually be a good time though to throw on your main modules here. You can see what I've used real quick. and your landing gear, just so you can save it real fast and do a quick run through of the Habs just to make sure everything's going to be right. So go ahead and do that if you wish to double check it. But otherwise, let's move on to the big pile of stuff. I'll keep this as organized as possible. We will have to place some of our main modules because they are part of this whole assembly here. I forgot about that. So you see they've moved over here and now they're going to be included with this. So we'll start from the top in the rear section, move our way forward, and go down. To begin, tab over to your structural section. We'll place as many structural bits as we can first. So here under structural, use the 4 flipped Deimos cowling. And that's going to go here on the captain's quarters. Next, focus on the point in front of it. We're going to be placing a Deimos B-spine. And then in front of that, inside of this little shelf, goes another Deimos cowling flipped aft. Okay. Next, focus on the top of our ladder well stack right here. We're going to be placing this Deimos C-spine flipped in this orientation. It's flippable, so I like to keep it in that orientation. Okay. Next, we're going to be using 2 port and starboard portholes, 1 per side, and we're going to attach them to the top of the ladder well stack right here. Okay, next, let's go on to the back side of the ship again. Focusing on this point here for the captain's quarters, we're going to be using 2 Stroud Cap A's flipped aft. Or aft variant, sorry, I don't think you can flip these aft. So we're going to be using 1 per side, attached like so to the captain's quarters. Let's go ahead and move forward a little bit, focusing on these 2 points here, 1 there and 1 here on these 2 Habs. We're going to be using 2 HopeTech radiators, 1 per side, fixed to these 2 points here, port and starboard. Next, let's focus on the top deck here on either side of the bridge. We're going to be using 4 Nova Galactic radiator tops. No glitch building required here. All 4 of these are going to fit nice and snug underneath the Ares bridge. Nice snug fit. Okay. So next, let's go down 1 level. We're going to be focusing on this point right here on the armory. We're going to be using 2 Stroud engine bracer A's. A quick fun historical note. I took my ship straight from the Razorleaf, so this is the Razorleaf. These are the only 2 original Razorleaf parts left on my build, so these are history right here. Okay, moving forward 1, we're going to be using 2 Stroud Cap B's, and they're going to get mounted right in front of our engine bracers, 1 per side. Okay, so in front of those, we're going to be using a Stroud mid bracer, 2 of them, 1 per side. Fixed to this point here, the second from the top deck. Okay, let's move forward 1 spot. We're going to focus on this point right here. We're going to be using 2 of these Nova Galactic cowlings, the quarter cylindrical mid variants, 1 per side, like so. Then moving ahead 1 spot, we're going to be using the 4 variant of that quarter cylindrical cowling, 1 per side, like that. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the back of the ship now. Down 1 more level. On this workshop point right here, underneath our Stroud bracers, go 2 Deimos bumpers, the aft variants, and that's going to cap off this sort of exposed portion of the hull on the bottom here. Okay, next this is where we're gonna have to do stuff slightly out of order. Focus on this little cave here, this empty space. Tab to your Grav drives. We're gonna be using this J51, and that gets placed inside that hole there underneath the HopeTech radiator. So if we swing the camera around, our reactor is gonna go in the same spot on the other side. Quick note about this one, I'm using the level 60 and above reactor, the one that generates ludicrous power. Your mileage may vary if you decide to use a different one, whether it be your level's not high enough yet, or you don't want to pay for it, whatever. It doesn't matter. But just know, if you do want to copy my loadout is tailored around the power output that this thing generates. Additionally, this C-class reactor does have side mounts on it, and we're going to be utilizing those side mounts for the structural pieces. So again, mileage may vary. So let's go ahead and turn the camera back around. Going back into your structural items, we're going to be using 2 Nova radiators. It's the large ones, not the small port ones. And they will be going on the bottom side attachment points of the Grav drive and the reactor. So we got a little radiator wings sticking out there. So moving forward we're going to focus on this point right here, on the midship section. We're going to be using 2 Nova Galactic braking engines. Just like that. Okay. Moving forward 1 spot, right there, we're going to be using 2 portholes, 1 per side. Like that. Okay. And let's go ahead and move down 1 deck. Underneath that porthole here, we're going to be using 2 Deimos Wing E's, the aft variants. And they get placed like so, 1 per side. Okay. The final piece, this guy here, we're going to be using a Tayo cowling, aft bottom. And if we swing the camera around, it's going to go in the belly. That kind of caps off this right angle right here. So we're going to place that in there, like so. It's hard to see. The camera perspective's a little messed up, but that's how it's going to look, just like that. See that? Caps off that right angle nicely. Okay. Let us go ahead and start placing our cargo containers. So focus on this point on the back of the ship, on this Deimos cowling. We're going to use this 10T hauler hold on the top. Then on the point right underneath it, on the end of the captain's quarter, we're going to use this 100 cm ballast hold. Just like that. So if we move forward a little bit on these shelves right here, we're going to be using these 2 40T hauler cargo holds. I'm going to give a quick blurb about those. If you don't care about cargo and you want that mobility back, see how it's at 72 right now. You can actually delete these if you don't want those there, and look at how high the mobility goes. You can actually cap those in with these Stroud cowlings if you'd like, and that achieves, in my opinion, the same thing that those cargo holds do. All right, moving on. Tab on over to your fuel tanks. Let's get those placed. So on your fuel tank section, focus on the upper attachment point for the Grav drive and the reactor. We're going to be using 2 of these half-cylindrical helium-3 tanks, the M50s. One of my favorite ones. And that gets placed there, and it fits right in like that. And it makes these Hope Tech radiators look like they might be like ejectable heat sinks or something for an emergency coolant purge or something. Next, find yourselves these drum-looking ones, the Titan 350s, and they are going straight underneath our Nova braking engines on the midship section, like so. Okay. And that just about does it. Let's go ahead and get some of these other items placed. Tab over to your shield generators. I'm using this one here, the SG-1800. Use whichever one you like. We're going to mount it on top of that cargo hold. Kind of makes it look like the ship's got a little spoiler. Tab on over to your engines tab. We're going to start placing these Poseidon engines that we picked up from Deimos, and they get affixed to the Stroud bracers. 1 per side. And then last, go back over to your structurals tab. We're going to use 2 Deimos E-wings, the aft variants, and they're just going to get placed on the sides of our Poseidon engines, like that. Okay. And this porthole is not actually needed because I placed it during the Habs section, so that gets deleted. And that takes care of the main pile of stuff. Congratulations for making it this far. Let's go ahead and move on to our landing gear. Okay, let's start with these guys here. We're going to be using 4 of these 220cb landing gears. We're going to do 2 per side, and the 2 are going to fit in this little empty space here. So grab 2, place it there. Let's go ahead and swing the camera around and do the other side. There you go, just like that. Okay, next we're going to be using these Deimos Staryard specialty ones that you can only get there, these 320cb landing gear. And we're just going to be doing 2 per side on the belly section of the ship on either side of this control station here. So 2 per side. I'm just going to do it the easy way since I have all 4 placed already. So it should look like that, 2 per side. Okay, and that does it for all that. Let's go ahead and get this forward cannon assembled. Okay, as you can see, I've moved the entire assembly over, so it makes it a little bit easier on us. So let's go ahead and just work our way from the bottom up. So we'll start by placing this hab here. So we're going to tab to your habs. We're going to be using this Deimos Engineering Bay A on the bottom. So that gets fixed to the control station on the belly of the ship at the very, very bottom. Like so. Okay. Let's go ahead and focus on that point there. Tab back over to your structural. We're going to be placing a porthole there. Okay, on this attachment point, we're going to be using a Deimos A-spine flipped aft. Then in front of it, we're going to be using this Deimos C-spine, also flipped aft. Then in front of it, we're going to be using a Deimos radiator. Okay, and at the very front of the Engineering Bay A 3x1, we're going to just place a porthole. Okay, let's get these out of the way. On the sides of the Engineering Bay, we're going to be using 2 Deimos mid bumpers and 2 Deimos 4 bumpers that line the edges of the Engineering Bay like that. And this is going to form our bottom prong, I guess if you want to call it, the top and the bottom section that forms the front firing area. So let's go ahead and move up 1 level. We'll focus on this point right here. We're going to be placing this Nova Galactic weapon mount there. Okay. Let's get these weapons done. We're going to be placing these weapons later, but because we're going to close off this entire forward cannon area, we might as well get these guns put in right now. It'll just make it easier on all of us. So the weapons that I'm using are these PB300 alpha beams. So starting on the bottom, let's look at this spine C. We're going to be putting 1 per side on this spine here. So 1 here, and another 1 on the other side. Like that. And then the other 2 that go on top, we're just going to be putting on the 2 rear hardpoint mounts on the Nova weapon mount, like so. Okay, and that completes that. So let's go ahead and get the top section done. Let's take this Deimos Engineering Bay B, and that goes on the very top, like so. Okay. We're going to surround that with the same Deimos bumper setup, so 2 mid bumpers and 2 4 bumpers that surround the edge. Let's not forget about this. We have an equipment plate that needs to be placed in the middle on the very top here. Okay. So let's go ahead and turn around the camera. Let me recalibrate here. Okay. So if we focus on this middle point underneath the top engineering bay, okay, we're going to use a Deimos B skeg. And that fits nice and snug between the two forks of the Nova weapon mount. In front of it, we're going to use the A skeg. Like so. Then we'll just cap off the front of that B bay with a porthole. Okay, almost done. So let's go ahead and focus on these 2 points here. We're going to be attaching these sort of side modules to the front cannon area. So we're going to be using a Nova cowling mid variant there. And then a Nova cowling upside down version underneath it. Okay. And then 2 of these top and bottom Nova cowlings here. And then just duplicate that to the other side. Like so. Alright. And congratulations, you have just assembled the forward cannon area. Let us go on and move on to our main hardpoints. Okay, so for our hardpoints, let's begin with these guys here. I've got 2 PBO-300 alpha turrets. So one goes up front on that equipment plate that we threw down. And these are flippable, so I've got this one rotated to be forward facing. Okay, so if we focus on the back here, on the Deimos B-spine, on that attachment point, we're going to put our second alpha turret back there, and that's flipped to be aft-facing. Gives it that kind of stereotypical classic warship look with the 2 different facings of the cannons there. Next, let's get these autocannons placed. I'm using these Vanguard autocannons. These are locked behind the Vanguard questline. You need to complete the first mission with them to get access to these. I think it's worth it. These are really, really powerful autocannons, and the power draw is only 2. So I think these are great additions. Even though these alpha cannons and the turrets can more than handle themselves, having these on board, especially if you're playing in very hard mode, these can really help you mop up once you drop their shields. So we've got 2 on these E-wings here, port and starboard. 1 autocannon gets placed here, then another one on the other side. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the last 2 autocannons. We're just placing them on this Deimos C-spine here at the top, right behind the bridge. 1 there, 1 there. Okay, next, go our Crimson Fleet modules. If you opted to skip these, you can just skip this. So let's start with the comm spike. That goes right here on our our C spine. And then our 2 conduction grids are just going to go on these E-wings on the sides of our Poseidon engines. So 1 there, and another one on the other side. Like that. Alright, and let me just double click to make sure everything is connected. Yep, we're good to go. So congratulations, you have completely assembled your Razorleaf-Class experimental prototype frigate. So let's go ahead and talk about the coloring. Alright, so for the coloring mindset, really the only mindset I had was to copy the Razorleaf. And it's literally copy and pasted from the Razorleaf. So let me just pull up the menu so you can see. Color 1, 2, and 3, in case you want to copy the paint scheme. This is the exact paint scheme that the designer at Bethesda chose for the Razorleaf. I actually really like this color scheme. It's really, really awesome. Love the gunmetal gray, gunmetal black, and you know, these kind of golden, dark golden highlights. It fits really, really nicely with these Deimos parts. I did paint the entire ship just the same exact color. It makes the ship look totally menacing, but not super evil. But it's enough to make bad guys feel a little bit scared when they see this thing Grav jumping in. So pretty much that covers the coloring mindset. That covers the building. So let's go ahead and take a quick tour of the interior. So I'll see you inside. Okay, so here we are at my outpost. And there is the legendary Razorleaf right in front of me. Let's go on in through the landing bay. So as I said in the beginning of the video, this is slightly roleplay territory, so all these Habs were placed semi-logically, at least in my brain, so that kind of explains this layout is slightly a maze, but a maze that you can quickly learn if you spend any amount of time in this ship. So let's start with this tour. So we're in the back section at the entry point from the landing bay, and it leads straight into the workshop, and this is something I always do, just so you can just run in here real quick and do business with your crafting tables if you need to. And of course the Deimos one's nice because it's one of the only ones that has the research lab in it. And here's our nice little aft porthole. We can, this serves double as our ladder blocker. The ladder for the captain's quarter in the armory always gets placed here if you do not put this porthole up. But I also like to have a rear-facing porthole anyway, so you can have a nice view of your landing area. So let's go ahead and move on. So we're still in that aft section. Now we're moving into the Nova Galactic B berth. So here's our aft ladder well. Let's go ahead and jump up. If everything's placed correctly, our doors and ladders should look something like this. So we're moving aft again. This is our armory. And grab a gun, grab your equipment before you head out. I chose the Nova Galactic one over the Deimos one because this one's got 2 mannequins. It's the only armory that's got mannequins to my knowledge. I really enjoy displaying my commonly used armor in there. And displaying some of my most used pieces on the walls here. You know. Up one more level in the aft section. We are now on the top deck. Nothing special in here. This is the captain's quarters. Nova Galactic. I chose this one because it was my favorite. You probably could have chosen Deimos to stick with the theme if you'd like, but I just really like this one. Let's go ahead and head back down. Back in the Nova B berth. Here's our ladder well that takes us to all the other floors in the front section. But before we go up there, let's just inspect this area. Now this is the Deimos 2x2 engineering hab. This is one of my favorites. This to me gives it that nice Star Trek vibe. How we can have a main engineering compartment, you know, maybe our version of Scotty's down here tinkering with the ship systems and yelling at us when we push the ship too hard. But yeah, this is the Deimos 2x2 engineering bay. One of my absolute most favorite habs that never seems to make it to any of my builds except for this one. And here's the porthole that looks inside of the firing chamber. Real ominous looking. But yeah, this window's got to be here. Nothing special here. Here's our infirmary. I thought it to be on the ground floor make the most sense. And down here, nothing special again. This is a control room and our docking hatch access. So you can see that little ladder here that accesses that. So let's go ahead and go on upstairs. Get lined up to rocket up. So we're on the second deck now in the fore section. This is our Nova Galactic 2x2 living quarters. And our side-mounted berth A. This is something I like to do in a lot of my builds. If there's a 2x2 Nova living quarters, I like to either put a 2x1 Nova living quarters or one of the berths, and it just kind of makes it feel like it's an extension of the main living area. The Nova Galactic living quarter even has its own pool table. Another reason why I like this hab so much. Playing pool during advanced maneuvers, probably not advised, but you know, details. So we are now on the next floor. in the fore section. This is our battle stations hab.
Never quite had a friend like you.
And here we can walk out onto the top pylon for the firing chamber area. There's our porthole that faces the front. And there's my outpost below. Let's go on and head upstairs. Oh yeah, here's our side-mounted control station hab.
Sure.
Kind of an extension of the main battle stations. Okay. And up on the final deck is our bridge. Got some side portholes so you can have a nice overview. And best view in the house, as always, if you're using the Deimos Ares bridge. And here it is. Love this view that you get with these things. And some may not like this. Most of my friends hate how I do this. But man, when I'm in the cockpit pilot seat flying this thing, I just love seeing this AI turret spinning around and taking shots at the bad guys. It really, really makes me feel like, you know, I'm piloting an extra large frigate-sized warship. I just love seeing that. So if you don't like this, here's your preview from the pilot seat. It does kind of block a lot of your view, but if you're the immersive gamer type like I am, you might actually love to learn to love it. So that concludes the interior tour. I hope it was clear. It was a quick one. I didn't want to go super duper in depth. I didn't think it was necessary. Everything checks out. Ladders and doors are placed the way we wanted them to be. We got the ship built. We got the ship painted, so she's space-worthy. So let's go into space real quick and see how she handles herself in the fight. Alright, so here we are in space, and we're about to find some Varun Zealots to go pick on for the sake of this combat test. They're going to be level 20 to 40, and I'm a level 94. This is on the very hard difficulty. So you can see the particle guns going off first, and now the autocannons joining them. That guy just got totally deleted. Here's a level 38, same deal. Particle cannons first, and then the Vanguard autocannons will join in later. And look at that guy's hull just totally dropping. These guys are pretty low level, but again, they are still going to be pretty spongy because this is the very hard difficulty. So here's a bit of a snippet of what it can do in combat. If you're playing on normal, she can handle it. She can handle anything in normal mode. Gets a little dicey and very hard, but that's the way it always goes if you want to play on that difficulty. So that concludes the combat test.
Liftoff looks good, all systems look.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was easy and clear for you to follow. But most importantly, I hope you stick it to that pirate scum with your new SysDef Razorleaf-Class Frigate. Long live the United Colonies!